I'm Jessica Constantino with Redken, in case you forgot my name. Thanks so much for taking an hour out of your day. I know you guys are super busy, and I appreciate that you want to spend an hour with me to share some information that I'm super passionate about. So what we're going to be talking about with the time that we have together is just some quick techniques that you guys can use on some of your clients to maybe change it up a little bit. And it's not going to take all day. So how many of you guys have clients that never, ever, ever want to try anything new? Yeah, all of us, right? And then how many of you guys have clients that are super, super busy and can barely make it to the salon? Yeah, I'm one of those. I'm actually one of those
in their
people.
mind. Yeah.
Right? I'm actually one of those people. So what we're going to be talking about today is some 20-minute express techniques that you guys can do to either introduce your guests to hair color or try to get some of your guests that are single process colors to like step out of their box a little bit. So if that interests you, say hey, hey. Hey, hey. Awesome. So this is going to be kind of the Cliff's Notes version, expedited, but I think we're going to be able to get all the pertinent information in. And you guys know that at Redken, we believe that if you learn better, you're going to earn better so that you can live your best life. And a lot of the things that we're going to show you is nothing that other manufacturers haven't done before. We just have our own methods, and it doesn't mean any other methods are wrong, right? So to get to one outcome, there's multiple ways that you can get there. And then what we're hoping is that you'll adapt and, you know, put a little bit of your own style on it, because that's why your guests come to see you, is for your particular individual style. And we're not trying to take that away from you. So behind the chair, would you guys agree that we get results, right? Are they always awesome results, or could they sometimes be better? Yeah, sometimes they can be better. And even with me, I've been doing hair for 22 years. Even with me, sometimes I look at things and I'm like, wow, she loves it, but inside I feel like it could have been a little bit better. Have you ever felt that way? Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. So oftentimes the results that we're getting are directly related to the habits that we formed behind the chair. And some of those habits are awesome, you know, and you don't want to lose those. And then some of those habits, just like with anything, could be a little bit better, right? But it's pretty hard to change. So sometimes when we get a good result from something that we do, it becomes our belief that that's the only way to do it. So what we want to do is we want to be open to some new ideas, some new things that you guys can use right away behind the chair to maybe increase your color tickets or increase your add-on sales. Does that sound interesting? Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Cool. Cool. So along the way, when we're trying something new, if we're trying to utilize a new technique, does it feel like you're doing it perfect the first time? No. Yeah, not always. Sometimes it feels really awkward, right? And then if it feels awkward, you're like, I feel awkward. Now I'm self-conscious. I don't want to do this anymore. So with anything and with any class that you're doing or anytime you want to try something new, just allow yourself to be a beginner. Mistakes are totally okay. Anytime I make a mistake, it's a learning experience, and there's something that I'll take away from that. So what we don't want to do is deny that it happened or lay blame on the product or justify, you know, this mannequin hair sucks or my guest had barely any hair. Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, sorry.
Good, no worries, don't be sorry. It's okay. We're just setting the stage, so you didn't miss much. Okay. So we're all going to be responsible for our own learning, and what that means is it's tremendously hard to stay present. When somebody's speaking with you or delivering information, have you ever noticed that for about every 60 seconds that somebody's chatting with you, our mind likes to go on a 20-second vacation? Yeah, it happens when I am actually speaking. So it happens to us all. The human brain functions essentially the same, you know, we hope. And you're just gonna have to remind yourself to stay present because we only have a short period of time to cover some information that I think is gonna be really, really helpful for you guys. So at the end of the class, we'll have some wins, and you know, in the hubbub of everything of day-to-day life, I think that we all, as human beings, forget to celebrate the small wins that we have behind the chair, in life, everywhere. So at Redken, we like to remind you guys to stop, celebrate your wins. So we're gonna celebrate some wins at the end of the class, and at Redken, we like to do it by putting our hands in the middle, shouting a word that is inspirational, that kind of sums up our learning, and then we just celebrate that. And at the end of the day, we will have used our energy and we will all be living better because we're here at class learning better. So we're gonna dive right in. I'm not gonna spend a whole bunch of time on the Redken history, but we always like to remind people what we're all about so that, you know, if you're new to the brand or maybe you've never heard this story before, it helps to know what our culture is all about. So we were born in 1960. These two people right here, the lady's name is Paula Kent. Jerry Redding next to her was her hairdresser. And he was a chemist before he was a hairdresser. And so he was creating take-home products for his guests. And at that time, late 50s, early 60s, nobody was doing that because women were coming in to get like shampoo sets, right? And they didn't really do their hair at home. So, but he believed that you needed to put protein back in the hair. So all of his products were based on protein science. Paula Kent went to him, experienced it for herself, and then took all of the money that she had, which wasn't much, but she invested it to create the first Redken products. And then flash forward, we've grown into this huge brand that you guys know and love today. But we like to always remember where we come from and remember our roots. And everything that we do is based in science. So we believe that you have to be smarter than the hair and that you have to keep the hair as healthy as possible and offer solutions to people's challenges. That's something that's been at the heart of our company and it's never changed. So in the 90s, there was an earthquake that destroyed our labs in California, so we made the move to New York City, and that is really when I feel like we stepped into our own identity and became the brand that you guys know today, because all of our inspiration comes from the streets of New York City. We are a huge presence at New York Fashion Week and Fashion Weeks all over the globe. So we have creative directors that create all those looks and are creating the trends. So it's really cool. But we're still committed to innovation. We're still committed to science and technology. So that's why we're always improving. You know, some people love it. Some people don't love it so much, but we're always changing, we're always improving so that we can stay at the forefront and the cutting edge of technology. So, any questions before we get started? All right, really quickly, I'd like to just put it out there. What expectations do you have for the class so we can make sure that everything you need gets covered in this hour that we have together? I know you had texted me. And go ahead, would you want to share with the group what you were hoping for?
Yep.
Awesome.
We had Stylist mentioned this week that we ran out of SPV and SPA in Color Sync, and those might be changing anyways. So I asked Jessica to go over some similar toners that Redken has that we could use to get similar results.
Awesome.
Get
so,
nice bright blondes.
Yeah. So anybody have those challenges where you run out of something and you're like, oh my gosh, what do? I need to make this. I need to create it. Anybody in the room have that challenge, Jess? Yes.
Yeah, creating a GI was fun.
Creating a GI was fun, she says. I love GIs, by the way. So I'm taking it that when you're using Sync, you guys are using a lot of, is it Silver Pearl Ash and Silver Pearl Violet? Is that right?
Yeah.
SPA, SPB? Okay, awesome. So to be able to create what you need from a color line, you really have to understand what's in the bottle. So I got you all, let me just start over. So I brought you all some shades charts. On these charts, there is a lot of information that you need to be able to formulate. And so when you look at the chart, up near the top where it tells you the shade, it's going to say above it, the primary and secondary tones that are used. And then just below it on that black bar, it's going to tell you what background color you're working with. So what we know is if we want to keep things cool, we need a black to gray background, right? So I am going to go ahead and make an educated guess that those toners that you guys are using in sync more than likely have a pastel gray background. So knowing that, you guys know that you have to look in the category where it says black to gray background, right? And you'll see that those are all the cool colors. So most of what we have is on that chart. The only thing that's missing are the violet blues, right? And those are only at level 6, 7, and 8 anyway. So you guys are probably looking for something that's living more in the 9 range, yes? 12. 12? Okay, so good news, we're coming out with 10s, okay? Very soon, in shades. So that's gonna be amazing. But until then, what do we know to do if we need something at a level 12 and all I have is a 9?
Clear.
Yeah, we're gonna use our crystal clear. Use the heck out of that clear. It's my best friend.
Can it go bad?
Can it go bad? Only if it's left open.
They're never been
Same
open.
with the developers.
Yes, so developer takes less time to go bad than, I mean, crystal clear, let's face it, even though there's not any tonality to it, it's still hair color. So it's still gonna oxidize and not work correctly, right? Is it still gonna dilute things? Maybe, but it'll be more like water, right? So we're gonna use our crystal clear to dilute if we need to take it up and make it sheer enough that I can use it on a level 12. So if we're thinking of silver, pearl, ash in Matrix, Matrix and Redken are sister companies. So their ash is going to be blue, just like our ashes. So what we know that we need something silvery, which if we look in silver, we want silver tones. Where are we gonna find those?
Titanium.
In the titaniums, perfect. So we're gonna look in those titaniums, and then pearl, what we know with pearl is that it's going to have some pastel blue and some pastel violet. We have a pearl family that has that in there, right? And then ash is blue. So it's just got an extra kick of blue, right? So if I need a silver pearl ash, I could probably use 09T, that has silver and blue, and 09P, that has the blue violet. And then both of them have that pastel gray background. So if you mix those, you're more than likely going to get something very similar to what you've been using.
And would those cancel out yellow very well? Sometimes I just really think I need violet for that, like pale yellow, to get rid of that too.
I hear ya. There's violet that's in your pearl.
Okay.
So if I use this chart and I just go, okay, I know I need something with a black to gray background because I'm trying to cool something off, right? And I need some silver, I need some blue, I need some violet. I just look at these and I know that the writing's very small. And I don't have my glasses on, so it's a good thing I've memorized the chart. But yeah, all you need to find is what your primary and your secondary tones are. If you feel like you would like an extra kick of violet, go ahead and add some 9V to it, you know? So you can make any colors that you need if you know what's in the bottle. Even with like your color fusion, right? I know that that chart's gonna give me the information that I need so that I can proceed and be able to create something if I don't have it available. Will it be an exact match? Probably not. Will your consumer notice? Probably not, right? It's gonna be very subtle. So, does that help a little bit?
Well, sometimes it's good. Like sometimes, like I just get bored of using like 90 and PP on everybody.
I understand.
Or SPV or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like on the sites that we follow, like on Facebook and stuff. Like I saw a cool one where she does like 9V, 9P, and I think it was 9G, just to like not get too much of that. Like it just kind of balances it out.
Right.
And I'm like, I just want something different.
Right.
I mean, there's only so much you can do, but it just gets boring sometimes.
I hear ya. I hear ya. Anybody else sometimes get bored using the same thing over and over and over? I know I do. Right?
I mean, we know it works, but
we know that it works, but sometimes it's like, gosh, I just want to mix it up a little bit. I just want to use my formulation, my principles of formulation and the things that I know so that I can actually, you know, be creative. So I get it. I totally get it, and I think it's great. You know, it's awesome to also share that with your guests during your consultation. Hey, I'd love to just change it up a little bit. And it's just a tweak. It's just some fine tuning. It's not going to be super drastic, but just fine tuning. We're going to step it up a little bit, just change it enough that it keeps it interesting. If I was a guest behind the chair, I think that I would be, or not behind the chair, in the chair, I think that I'd be happy to hear that, right? Especially if it's not super drastic, right? We also have to kind of know our audience and know if it's the kind of guest that we can get away with a drastic change or not a drastic change, right? Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just, you know, share it with them, make them a part of the decision making during that consultation period, and they're gonna be on board for whatever, but we gotta explain the why behind it, you know? Awesome, so that's actually a perfect segue into what we're doing, because these 20-minute express techniques are really for those guests that maybe don't think about changing, they're in a hurry, or they want to change, they just don't want it to take too long, right? And I'm one of those people that's like, when I go get my hair done, I'm like, are we done yet? I can't sit here anymore, I've got things to do, right? And I think that we can all relate as hairdressers and just as human beings. So I think this is gonna be the perfect class for that. But before we go into it, does anybody else have an expectation they would like to get off their chest? All right, cool, let's proceed. So at every class, we just like to remind you guys of the red can color mantra, because it really is the bones of everything that we believe in when it comes to hair color. Who in the room remembers what the color mantra is? It's a good thing we're refreshing. So the color mantra is just, it's our belief that when we have those repeat guests behind the chair that keep coming to us and they're getting their hair colored, that when they come in to get their retouch done, their permanent hair color, alkaline hair color, only belongs at the new growth. And if we're refreshing, what are we going to use? Shades EQ gloss, absolutely. Just to really keep the integrity of the hair. Because if I kept overlapping permanent color over and over, what would happen?
Dry it out, damage it.
Damage, dryness, what'd you say?
It would like get too dark.
Yeah, it could over deposit, it could be picking up all kinds of background stuff, or it could feel like it fades constantly, you know, like way too soon. So we want to keep that cuticle intact. In order to do that, we want to do our refreshes with shades. And then the other piece of the puzzle is that we will approach the hair in zones, right? So that, with that being said, zone 1 is where that alkaline color goes. Zones 2 and 3 is with our shades. Sometimes, in order to get one fluid hair color, we might have to change our formula up 3 times, right? And have 3 different formulas for each zone. Would you guys agree with that? Awesome. Perfect. So if we approach the hair in zones, we are set up to keep the hair in as good condition as possible so that we're able to change the hair color up more often. We're able to do things with it that isn't going to damage it and create too much trauma, right? And then the other piece is that we always use a bond additive anytime we're doing a chemical service. What questions do you have about the color mantra? Okay, awesome. So when your guest comes in, what we know is that most of us in the salon world believe we're doing a thorough consultation every time. When we surveyed our guests, 97% of the salons said that they always gave one. 7% of salon guests said that they got one. So that means what? 93% are saying that they didn't get one. So I think we need to be more clear, and this is the time that we're consulting. This is the time where we're gonna just take a few minutes and align on what you're envisioning for your look today, and maybe discuss some opportunities to change it up a little bit, right? So when they sit down, we have 8 opportunities to talk about what we're using, to make recommendations, and to facilitate sales of add-on services, and maybe raise your color tickets a little bit. And you guys are a Summit Salon, right? So we know that that's a goal. So when we look at it, we want to make sure that we're talking about what we need to do to prepare the hair properly for our service that we're going to be doing. So what are some things that we might have to do to prepare the hair? Yeah, maybe a pre-art treatment is in order to make sure that we don't have any trace metals or minerals in the hair, especially if somebody's new to the salon and we might not be sure what's going on with their water, right? So we want to make sure we ask those questions so we can make recommendations right there. Then we might need to pre-treat the hair in order to make that service happen, right? So what do you guys use for pre-treatments? Yeah, maybe some cat, absolutely. Maybe a chem shot. Maybe it's just, okay, I did a clarifying treatment, I did my pre-art, now I just want to use some extreme conditioner just to make sure we're putting a little protein in there. And then, now's our opportunity to talk about the hair color service. So this is going to be good for anybody that maybe I've looked at my books and maybe my day is a little gappy and I've got all haircuts. Maybe I have some opportunities to say, hey, how about a little brightening around the face to accentuate that haircut? You know, it won't take very long, it won't be very expensive, it'll be just maybe an extra 20 minutes added onto the service, right? So if I was a guest, I'd be like, oh, 20 minutes, you're gonna brighten up around my face? I think that sounds great, you know? Or this is our opportunity to talk to those guests who have never had hair color before and just maybe feel them out and go, hey, I would think that maybe just a little bit of highlights and through the top, or maybe just a slight alteration of your color could really accentuate your haircut or bring out the color of your eyes, skin, etc. It'll take me about 20 minutes extra for a minimal charge, right? So we have ways that we can talk to our guests about introducing them to some quick techniques and services that maybe they've never experienced before. Right? That'll keep it fresh and new for us, especially if it's something that we can offer our guests that are just single process color all the time, right? Let's just add something in, shake it up, be wild, you know, and maybe we'll get that guest to start stepping outside of her comfort zone and outside of her box.
I had a haircut client not that long ago. She was sitting in my chair and she's like, she has natural gray and doesn't color her hair, and she's like, man, I wish that you guys just had clear color that would just add shine. And like, we do. And then I'm like, man, I haven't even thought about, like, because, you know, she's obviously natural gray, like, doesn't color her hair, but now every time she gets a haircut, she gets clear shades put on, and she loves it.
Yeah.
That's all she wanted. And I'm like, yeah, we do have that. We do that.
Exactly, right. It's, you know, and we don't know if we don't ask. Right? We just don't know if we don't ask. So we can't assume that just because they've been doing their hair the same way forever, or maybe they're like your guest who's naturally gray. You know, everybody wants something just to put a little glamour on it, I feel like, you know? And for those men, maybe just ask them if they want a little more pepper with their salt, you know, and it kind of introduce them to some gray blending techniques. So there's all kinds of ways that we can do it as long as we word it and as long as we're doing that proper consultation to set us up, right? So then, after the service happens, then we style. We just need to make sure that we're taking these opportunities to talk to our guests about our styling products that we're using, the hard tools that we're using, what temperature setting they're on, because this is a way for us to give them a little hair tutorial right there in the chair. And if we educate them about what to use, how to use it, they'll be able to represent our work in its best light, and we'll be able to really make those retail sales, hit our goals, maybe jump to the next level, and just be set up for success, right? And it all starts here. So what questions do you guys have about a good consultation?
For the pre-art, like if you do have to do like the pre-art treatment or the cat, do you charge extra for that, or is that?
Would you guys charge a little bit extra for your treatments?
Yes. Okay. Like
Absolutely.
Like $20? Is it like a?
I don't think $20.
Treatment or?
I mean, it would really be up to your leaders based on what they're spending on the back end. Because what you want to do is you want to cover the cost of your application. You want to pay for the next application and the next bottle, and then you want to make a little bit of profit. I would say, you know, and it's taking some time, I would say maybe $10 for a pre-treatment. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah. So I don't think that's out of the question at all. And we want to make sure that when we're talking about these treatments, we let them know why we're recommending them and what might happen if they don't choose to do them, because we don't want them to look at it as a choice. We want them to look at it like, oh, this is necessary. This is necessary to ensure good results, which everybody wants. That's why they're coming, right? And why they're not doing their hair at home. Any other questions? Okay, awesome. So let's get right into it. Some of these techniques you can use just with lightener, you can use with hair color, maybe you change it up and you use two different things. I'm gonna be using some hair color and some lightener to create some dimension around the face. So here's a nice one that's really good for those people that just might want a little bit of blondness just right through the top and around the face. This is not the one that I'm gonna demo, but I have done it before, and you'd be surprised at how much lightness it pops, and it'll work like a veil to kind of fall over the top of the hair. So that's a really good one. We want to keep in mind what haircut we're working with, because this one's great for somebody that has a bob with maybe just some layering towards the bottom, right? Maybe not so much on those people with longer hair unless they just want color right around their face. So we want to visualize how it's going to look and make sure that it's going to accentuate and flatter our guest's face shape, her coloring, and all of that good stuff, right?
That's similar to what I was telling you yesterday.
Oh, that you've done this before?
I do a similar on a lot of short haircuts.
Yeah, it'd be perfect on shorter haircuts.
I have a client that like just kind of got pixie in a way, like a new cut, and so now I'm doing her color on Friday. It has to, like, it's probably going to be different techniques. So yeah, that's like what she told me she does.
Yeah, and it'll add some dimension. It'll make the haircut look like you can see all the little fine detailing to it.
Like, where would the person's part be in that?
Well, I would say that this would be either for a person that doesn't have a set part, like they said, somebody that's, you could wear it forward. Maybe I've got a short haircut and I've got a longer fringe that swoops. That would be amazing for that. I could also see it happening on somebody that has a middle part that just wants some lightness, maybe right around the face, like on a bob.
So would you kind of try to put the part just in the center of that, of the zigzag then?
Yeah, so
Okay.
because really what you're going to do is you're going to take 4 foils going this way. I would say that I'm going to isolate this off into a mohawk,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm going to have 4 foils going diagonal back, and then maybe 4 or 5 foils going the opposite direction, diagonal back, and then coming this way. And you could even add a little bit more to it if you wanted to, so that it really just forms that veil right over the top, right? So you can alter it. This is the one we're going to be working with. This is going to be a face framing technique that you can use to just really introduce your guest to what highlighting can do to her face. And this one would work really, I think, on any length of hair. So I think it's really versatile, and it would work off a side part, which most people, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like most of my clients are wearing a side part anyway. So you can kind of base it off of that. And what's cool about it is it can be as subtle or as bold as you want it to be, depending on what stitch you use and what you've chosen for color, right? So when you look at this, you'll see off the part, we're gonna be working in diagonal back sections, okay? What that's gonna do is it's gonna avoid any kind of stripiness or chunkiness. So it really wouldn't matter. I think that you could use a micro stitch and do it like a baby light if you wanted it to be very subtle, or you could use slices if you wanted it to be a little bit more noticeable, right? The contrast that you get is gonna be dependent on how much space you're leaving between your foils. So, and how bold your stitch is, right? So when I look at my guest, I just want to make sure that I'm working in a diagonal pattern off of her part. So we're going to start there, and then we'll add a few to the sides. So she already has a nice base that she's working with. This is something that you could definitely add on to like a single process hair color. You could get that base retouched if she's got gray that she wants to cover. And then I really like how the trend has been, can you guys see okay? If you can't, I'll be mirroring it on the opposite side. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna use slices, but they're gonna be thin slices. I can definitely see through my slice, and what's cool is if I used a fine enough slice, oh, I guess I should mix my product first. If I used a fine enough slice, it could look like a micro stitch, right? So I would just say, depending on how much drama the guest wants to see, will depend or will definitely determine what kind of stitch you use, right? So, and then if we want it to have that soft grow out, maybe I don't take it all the way up to the top, especially if she's somebody that maybe can't get into the salon as often, or if she's someone that you know she doesn't get hair color a lot, maybe she's a younger guest who's just starting to play with the idea of coloring her hair, then you could do much like the baby light technique that you saw at the Blonde Encyclopedia class. What's different about Doug's baby light that you liked?
I liked that they like did it and then you like balayage the ends that are left out.
Definitely. So did he take it all the way to the top?
No, he like started
Lower?
and then kind of
And then picket
up.
fence?
Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. So you can either decide to do it that way, or you can take it all the way up to the top if it's a guest that you know. Maybe she's a regular, maybe she comes in every 3 to 4 weeks. But I think that right now people are really loving the lived-in look, you know? And that's really the trend. We're not seeing as many blonde highlights that go all the way down to the scalp anymore. Would you guys agree with that? I mean, on some people we are.
Depends on
Yeah.
And this, I mean, we see a lot. I have a ton of full head foils.
Fantastic. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that they're not going, you know, because anymore it seems like in a lot of places people are either spacing their appointments out, or they're not getting, you know, they're just not coming in as often.
How long is it taking to apply this type of application?
I would say
5
how
to 7
fast
minutes
do
and
you
another-
foil?
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be dependent on how fast you foil. We're
This is the
only
20
gonna
minutes
be,
counting the processing time and application time, right? It's
well,
20 minutes all said and done and out the door.
an extra 20 minutes. Yeah, and it's gonna take me longer because I'm talking. What happened to my comb? Oh, there it is. But yeah, if I'm really laser focused, then I could get these foils in relatively quickly. And if I'm using lightener alone, well, we know that we can make that lightener move quickly, right? By using a higher volume developer. So, you know, I'm just using 20 right now for the sake of the mannequin. I demo on these mannequins like multiple times. So I try not to go with 40 right away. But if I knew that, you know, this is just a way to pop some brightness around her face and we don't have a lot of extra time, then I'm just gonna get right into it, right?
So do you think you're doing like 10 foils for this one?
I
That's
ripped 12.
12.
Yep. So you'll see that there's 8 going through the top off the part, and it's not going all the way back. It's not going all the way back through her crown.
Right.
This is just meant to frame the face. So I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna take another foil. I'm leaving about 1/4 to 1/2 inch of space between each foil. because if she's somebody that doesn't want anything dramatic or drastic, then I am going to use stuff that is going to give her a little bit of a subtle brightening effect, but it's not going to be a huge change. So I'm using Flash Lift with Bonder Inside, 20 volume for the lightener packet, and then 7 AA with 20 volume and Color Fusion. So that's just to, you know, maybe give her some exposure to some different products, but the quickest way to do it would be with what? Lightener, yep, and you could totally utilize some shades in there. This mannequin has a bit smaller head, so we could probably get away with just doing 6 foils off of the part, you know, and guest head sizes and head shapes change too. So if she's somebody that has a ton of hair, then we're
Got
gonna
some big old
use a little
melons
bit
up
more.
in here. You
You
got
know,
like
like
4 rows
full
across.
yeah.
I definitely.
This
I
is
feel
not
like
a
I get
partial
lost.
anymore.
No,
I am one of those people that has a giant head.
no, you're not what I'm thinking.
I feel like I get stuck in my same sectioning with foiling, like where, you know, sometimes I am always doing like a mohawk section back on the part line, and you know, I don't always love that look where you can just see, you know, very straight and symmetrical what's going on there. So I will do techniques like blur them up, but I've never seen someone foil on both sides of the part like that.
Yeah. So what's cool about it is it's not going to have a lot of drama around the face unless she wants that, you know. If she doesn't want it, it doesn't have to be
But
there.
also you're not gonna see, like, the highlights aren't gonna lay just like in a straight line from that. They're gonna be kind of tucked under.
It's
Right.
kind of what I did to my mom's hair, actually. She is a pixie.
Oh yeah?
It's short on both sides and then just like a long top, and she wears it both ways. And I almost kind of like, I just did diagonal a couple in there and I hit them, and then the top is dark too and it lays over, so they just kind of like peek out her front.
Yeah. And it's really flattering just around the face, especially if your guest, you know, has some really nice eyes, wants to draw a little bit of attention to that. And it just gives it enough of a subtle change where really what we're playing with is we're playing with dimension, you know, and just adding a little bit more dimension to those single process hair colors or those natural hair colors. So I'm doing the picket fence like we would with the baby light so that it has a nice soft grow out.
And it would be nice where they don't have to do it, like every time. Like
Right.
it would just naturally kind of grow out until
Exactly.
they wanted to do more, if not, or what.
Definitely. You know, and I would just ask her, you know, it could be something where she gets a little taste of what it's like to live in the lighter realm of things. And she may be calling you and going, I loved that so much. I'd like to do just a full foil. Or I'd love it if you could do that over my whole entire head, you know? So it just really opens up the door to start talking about that conversation so that we can start raising our ticket prices. So it's not taking that long. How much do you guys, when you guys do partials, do you charge by the foil?
For something like this, I would.
Perfect. How much per
otherwise-
foil do you guys think?
About 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and if I wanted it to have a little bit more impact, then I could definitely use something different, you know? Maybe I can use lightener. Maybe for those people that want to play around in the world of vivids, this would be a good way to add a little bit of that vivid hair color into their haircut, and they can live in that world without making the full commitment to, you know, doing a full head of it. So if we look, as I go through this, we'll look at some other patterns that you could utilize. So this is one where it's a zipper pattern almost. through the top of the head, which again will give you just a veil of highlights through the top to enhance any kind of haircut that you may have done on that guest. Has anybody done anything similar to that?
No, that really confuses me.
Somebody do that on the back of someone's head, but not on the top.
Yeah, I think we.
And then would you work that through, would you work from the front of the head?
Where do people usually want the most lightness?
Front.
In the front.
In the front. So I would probably start it in the front. Even when I balayage people, it always starts in the front. Just because I know that that's where they are going to want to see that money piece.
It's just traction.
Okay.
That money
So-
piece, it looks nice if their hair is down, but man, when they pull it up, they look like a skunk.
They do. So and what I tell people, you know, you have to remember that when we're doing balayage, there's 3 sides to a triangle, you know? So when you're painting with your balayage surfaces, you're not limited to just doing the top. You can do that front side so that if I pull my hair back, I don't run into that problem, right? So as long as there's a few little light pieces right there in the front, then, you know, you wear your ponytail, either if I paint only on the top, it all disappears, or we get that issue where we just have a stripe down the center. And I don't care who you are, that's not flattering.
No.
You know? So, okay, so we got the top done. I could leave it at that if I chose to, or I could start and go through the sides a little bit. And so maybe if I go through the sides, what I want to keep in mind is when she goes to pull her hair back, is she going to see those ribbons of color, and will she be okay with that? Because all of that will determine whether I put those straight, that will give me ribbons of color, or if I do it diagonal back. If I do it diagonal back, it's gonna give me softness, right? So I wanna make sure that I ask her how she wants it to look. If this is her first time getting color, I would say do it on the diagonal to stay safe so that we're not getting any kind of crazy looking chunks, you know? So if I do it on the diagonal, oh, that one's actually diagonal forward. Do you know how to tell if it's diagonal forward or diagonal back?
The marble rolls back.
Yeah.
Mine are so backwards, and I
The
don't
first
know
time
what
she
they
highlighted
are.
my hair, I was like, yeah, just put in like some visor sections, and I don't know what she was doing, but her like hands were like, I'm like, Alyssa, you're making this way too hard.
I still do it that way because I don't know how to do it.
Do you go
Just like, I
all the
just
way,
don't
like
know.
in that, say you have a section like where it goes behind
some
the ear, like do you
reason
go
triangles
all
and
the way
I
back, or
just,
do you
like,
just do like the front
I'm
view?
only
Get it.
doing
I don't
as big as my
understand.
peace sign. So when I foil, I only take a section of hair that's no bigger than my peace sign. That way I can control it. If I take something bigger than that, it's probably going to create drag on the sides, and then it's not going to come all the way up. Now, that's not a really that big of a deal if I am doing the baby light technique, where I'm starting an inch away from the top,
I don't want to be eating.
folding that hair in. Sarah. And then
Just look at your paper.
Just
Do
look
we
at your
take it
phone
back?
or your paper.
Or be taking a picture too.
So if I'm doing that, then it doesn't really matter how close I get. What are you guys laughing at?
Person's
We're
taking
posing.
pictures of our
Of our thinking faces.
Yeah, and I never have
So they're
good
trying to make their
pictures.
thinking faces prettier. Not
I'm
look like
trying to not be in the
conversation
photos.
faces.
Mine's always like weird.
I'm trying to go to the gym after this, I'm not cute.
Okay.
I'm trying to be like
So now we've got
Chin up, people. Chin up.
chin out.
We've got 7 foils in the front, 2 foils on this side, on the right-hand side, And then on the other side, because it was a side part, I bet we can get away with just doing one foil. Did I drop color?
You won't be the
Sorry.
first or the last.
Right?
It's just one, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's expected.
You still do hair behind the chair, right?
Occasionally. I don't do it full time. But the
Do you work with a mat or no?
yes, always.
Why in all of these like Instagram pictures, at least like salons, they don't have mats?
I think because some owners are into
Cruel.
the aesthetics.
Cruel. Yeah.
Yeah, they
That would
are.
be
So anytime you think Kirsten and I are being cruel, just think if we took your
we
mat
took-
away.
You're in trouble. You don't get your mat this day.
You're grounded.
You're grounded.
You don't get to have a mat.
That was serious. That was
Question.
Yeah.
Has about mats when we're on the subject. So the mats that we're looking into, I think will probably be the exact like this, except for they're gonna have cutouts. These ones didn't have cutouts, which are causing it to ripple and all kinds of weird stuff.
Yep.
So the mats end halfway through the base, if that makes sense. So it'll be shorter. Yep, they'll be shorter, but they'll be the same amount behind the chair.
So you just won't get a lot of mat on the side.
Is that weird?
Well, where do you
Or on the
stand?
I mean,
on
for the
the
majority of the
side.
time, you're